Hi, welcome back to Off the Shelf Book Talk with Book Lovers. I'm Elizabeth Nelson here with Kay Johnson, and we're back to talk about some more books we've read recently. So, Kay, what have you read that you've loved?
Well, I am obsessed. I have to admit, because I've been reading one book after another by Taylor Jenkins Reid.
Love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've read a few of them.
And I didn't know a thing about this woman until I read Malibu Rising, which was a hot summer book.
Yeah, that's on my to-be-read list.
And loved it. And then so you go back to see what else she's written. And so I read Daisy Jones and the Six.
It's also on my list.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great book.
Is it?
Well, it's really interesting because it's about a big-time rock group. And they quit in Chicago of like 1971. They just they're playing this huge arena show and all of a sudden they just quit. And nobody knows why. And so this is somebody writing a book going back and following the band from the very beginning till today. And so it's fiction, but it's really good.
Did you have a hard time figuring out if it was fiction or nonfiction?
I knew it was fiction because I'd read the description.
Okay, because there were some
I think
people.
you could.
There were some people that, when my book group, were like, "Does anybody know if this is supposed to be fiction or nonfiction?"
The thing that's really interesting about Daisy Jones and the Six is they had several hit records. She wrote all the lyrics.
Oh, wow.
And they're in the appendix. So I could see where someone would think it was a nonfiction book. But then she also wrote The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And
Also
that
on
is
that list.
really, really good too, because it's about a woman who's a reporter. She works for a magazine. And Evelyn Hugo is a famous actress who never gave interviews. And all of a sudden, she reaches out to this woman to do an interview. And of course, why is the big question. But it's an interesting story because the writer grows through her relationship with Evelyn Hugo. And it's an interesting book. And then she also had a short story called Evidence of the Affair.
Yes, that's the one I've read.
Oh, I thought that was
so good.
I was so hooked on that one because it's about a woman who discovers her husband is having an affair. So she reaches out to the husband of the woman. And then it's all told in letters back and forth.
I know, I love that. I've discovered that I really like books that are written between either letters or newspaper articles or all of that. I've discovered that's a genre I really like, and I don't always think I would because sometimes they don't read like you think they're going to, but those I think are becoming more popular too for people.
That was one of the things I really loved about the
Guernsey
literary
and potato peel society.
Yes, because that was all told in letters. And I love that book. But this one, Evidence of the Affair, was really, really good. And she's got a new one coming out this fall, or is it winter? I don't know. It's one of those, and I think it's called One True Love's. Oh no, it's called Maybe in Another Life. And what it is it's about a woman who's breaking up with her boyfriend, and the chapters ahead show if she would have stayed with them, or how her life, the different paths it would have taken. So I thought that was really interesting too. So Taylor Jenkins Reid is the author, and she's really, I think she's a wonderful writer. I enjoy her books. They are interesting. And there's a waiting list for all of them at the library.
I'm sure.
But they also have them on Libby, and sometimes they go faster. I don't know. But what have you read, Bets?
Well, let's take a look here. I read a book called The Family Upstairs. It's by Elisa Jewell, and it's told between two different time, past and present. And so in the present, you're following a girl who's just found out, who's just come into an inheritance from her birth parents. And she discovers, because when she was found in her house alone as a baby, and everybody else in the house downstairs was dead. And so there was this
Yikes.
always thought to be this cult that had killed themselves, and then the baby was left behind. And so it goes back and forth between her trying to figure out what happened and who she is, and then back to what was happening with the family in the past leading up to it. Yep. So it was really interesting. Few different little twists and turns at the end. Like, you thought, when I got to the end, I was like, oh, this is a really great ending. And then I read a chapter and I was like, I didn't see that coming, and this is not going to go well. So it kind of makes you, it's one of those books where you wonder, like, what happened after this was done? And I honestly don't think it probably ended well for some of these people when it was finished.
One of those kind of books.
Yeah, and one of those, it would fall into like the unreliable narrator, where they're telling the story, but you don't know if they're telling the truth. Because the stories kind of change. So that one, and then another one I read that was kind of like one of my creepier ones I read. And the other one I read is by Alex North, and it was called The Whisper Man. Okay. And Alex North, I would say he's a lot like Stephen King. He's more of a creepy writer, and this follows a man and his son, and they move into a house that was the scene of a crime.
Of course.
Of course. And years ago, back in like the 60s or 70s, there was a serial killer called the Whisper Man, that they called him that because the people that before they disappeared had complained about hearing whispering at their windows.
Ooh,
and
creepy.
So, but back when this happened, they believed they caught this guy. Well, now years later, this man and his son move into this house, and now the son is hearing whispers. So, and it's everything. It's coming around to it. Did they catch him? What's going on?
Is it good?
It is. It's very twist and turny. I would recommend reading it during the daytime.
Yeah, I don't like this kind of books.
Or not when you're home by yourself and people can suddenly sneak up on you, or when your kids are napping and then they appear, which is what I did. But I listened to the audiobook for this one, and it was really well done. So I really did enjoy that. And then the other, on a lighter note, I read Sorry I Missed You, and this is by Susie Krauss, and this is about 3 women who sublet a house. There's 3 different apartments, basement, main floor, attic, and they've all moved into this house because of something that happened. One of them, her fiance didn't show up for the wedding, and she doesn't want to talk to him, so she moves in. Another girl, I think it's a job change, and then the girl downstairs is going to school. And so they all have different reasons for running off, and they don't get along, and they all come back to the house at the same time. And in the mailbox is a letter that says, Sorry I missed you. Hoping to speak to you soon. I'll be at the coffee shop from this time to that time. The only problem is that the address on the front was washed away because the mailbox had a leak in it. So they don't know who the letter was for or who the letter is from. So it's all 3 of these women decide the letter's for them. So it's how, through all this, so they have to go to this coffee shop and they're sitting there, and it's how they kind of get to know each other and are able to kind of grow and figure out, and then finding out who it's actually from and who it was meant for. So it was really good. That one I read really quick. More of a sweet book with another little twist in there that was I thought was really entertaining, because I didn't see this one coming, but it made me laugh.
That's good. That's good.
So what else have you been reading?
Well, I am immersed as we speak in the new Preston and Child book. Okay. Came out yesterday. It's called Bloodless.
Vampires?
Yeah. Well, they aren't true, but they think so. But it's like number 20 in the Pendergast series. And it starts out with Pendergast and his partner have just finished involved case in Miami, Florida. So they're flying out. And one's going to Denver and one's going to New York. And all of a sudden, they find themselves diverted to Savannah, Georgia, where 2 bodies have been found that have been drained of all blood. And so Pendergast has to figure out what's going on with this. And then in the meanwhile, there's a documentary film group there who's filming a story about haunted Savannah, and they're focusing on the vampire killings and stuff. And so there's all sorts of backstory and front story, and but I do really, really love these books. And so I was sort of amazed that I didn't stay up all night and read it. Finished it last night, but I was about halfway through, and then I was too tired, and today I've been too busy, so it's like I haven't had a chance to dive into it. So I'm looking forward to when I can hook up with these guys again.
Well, good. Let's see. I read Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet by Jamie Ford.
Okay.
This is about, it takes place in, I think it's San Francisco. And it's the story of a Chinese, friendship between a Chinese young boy and his Japanese friend. And it takes place during World War II, right before the Japanese were sent off to the internment camps.
Okay.
So the movie starts when the boy is grown up, and it goes back and forth between present and past. And it starts with a hotel is doing a story on the news that they found stuff in their basement. And it turns out that their basement was full of all of the stuff that people were saving that they didn't take with them to the internment camp. So it's Japanese families, all of their belongings are in the basement. And seeing that on the news brings back memories of his time growing up with everything, and his friend Keiko that he met, who disappeared and didn't come back. And so he's trying to figure out what happened to her, and really just kind of a sweet story of him and a friend. And I mean, it's set during a really horrible thing that happened, but it's him looking for her, and then also how his relationship with his son and his son's new non-Chinese fiance.
Okay.
So, but I mean, really, it was a really good story. It has a really great ending. The characters were really nice and relatable, and I really did enjoy that. It was different than what I've read else recently, which was kind of nice. For a really long time, I feel like all I read were books that were set in World War II.
That's me in Regency, England.
Yes, but so I mean, like, I have my Maggie Hope books, and then I think, not so much right now, but for the last year and a half, it was like every time you went to Target, there was a new book about something that took place in World War II with either the spies or ladies left at home in the London Blitz and everything. And so that was kind of, I mean, it falls along the same line, but it's a different side to the story than what you usually read with stuff happening in London. So that was kind of
a nice change.
Yes, nice change of pace. And then I think last time we were here, I'd found an author called Riley Sager.
Yep.
Last time we were here, I think I talked about Home Before Dark, and I also finished Lock Every Door, which is about a girl who is house sitting at this apartment sitting in this exclusive building in New York, and the other house sitters start disappearing. And so she has to figure out where they've gone and if she's going to be next. And so then I really liked Riley, and I went back to hit their first novel, which is called Final Girls. And the premise sounded really, really interesting. It's a final girl in movie lingo is the girl left standing at the end of the horror movie.
Oh, the last one standing?
The last one standing.
This isn't man number 8 or...
No, yeah, so it's the last girl standing. So Final Girls in this book represents, it refers to 3 women who are all survivors of some kind of mass killing.
Oh.
And so the media has dubbed them the Final Girls. And so you have Lisa, you have Quinn, and you have Samantha.
Okay.
And they haven't all gotten together, and they're all dealing with everything in different ways. And at the beginning of the book, Lisa, one of them has committed suicide. And
no.
Then so Quinn is the main character, and so you're mostly focusing on her and how she deals with everything that's going on. And then after Lisa dies, Samantha shows up at her doorstep and wants to get to know her and spend time with her. So it's trying to figure out what is going on with Lisa, and are the other girls in trouble? And then what actually happened to Quinn back when her friends were killed, because she doesn't remember what happened.
Oh, is it creepy?
It is. If I would have started with this book, I hate to say it, but I don't think I would have read anything else by Riley Sager.
Oh.
This is Riley's first book, The Final Girls, and it reads like a first debut novel.
Oh, okay.
So luckily, the other books that they've read, I did like a lot more. So they have.
A lot of times they do get better.
So they have improved, and I mean, there were a lot of people that did really like it, and they liked the twists and turns. But it was one of those things where, sort of right away when I was reading it, I was like, I wasn't really drawn to any of the characters, and I sort of didn't care how everything was unraveled in the end, because you didn't really...
You weren't invested in the characters.
No, and you kind of just felt like, okay, so they went through something terrible and they're having a hard time now. It didn't really, like, draw me in, which I felt kind of bad about, but I went through it quick, and it was back on to the next 7 people who were waiting for it, so that was fine. What about you? What else you up to?
You're a fan of Inspector Ganache.
Gamache?
Yeah,
I love
Gamache.
Inspector Gamache, yes.
Okay, well, Louise Penny has a new book coming out this fall called The Madness of Crowds. It's book 17.
Okay.
And it comes out, let's see, it doesn't tell me. Oh, August 24th, next week. And, but this one is interesting because it says in the introduction, it starts out innocently enough, and apparently needs to act as a security for some guy, a visiting professor, who ends up being a really bad guy. And, when murder is committed, it falls to Armand Gamache and their team to investigate the crime, as well as extraordinary popular delusion and the madness of crowds. So it sounds good. Like I said, it comes out next week.
Okay.
And stuff. I don't know that I will read it instantly, but I will probably put myself on the list.
Yeah, I know. I have several books, I think, out on either on Amazon, or I've ordered a few books from the Buffalo bookstore. And I know they're all going to, I know I've ordered them. I don't remember when the release dates are on a bunch of them, but I'm like, I just know that they're all going to show up in like November.
Yes.
Or like all at once in the mail.
Yes.
And but I mean, that's the thing too, is I'm still at the point where I really shouldn't be ordering books, because I have plenty at home I need to read. But I do agree with that. Somebody said it on Facebook that there are two different, buying books and reading books are two different hobbies.
Yes, that's exactly right. It is interesting. You had asked me about Kindle Unlimited. And there's also a news service called Scribd. And Scribd actually has better books.
Oh, yeah?
And, but if you're not familiar with Kindle Unlimited, it's ebooks, and it's through Amazon, and you pay, I think it's $9.95 a month or $9.99, and you can have up to 10 books at any given time. And it's a mix of new authors and established authors and so on. I've been a member probably, 3, 4, 5 years, whenever it started, and I always have 10 books. But I found a lot of really great authors that way. And one that I've been rereading is Pete Brassett.
Okay.
And their mystery's set in Scotland.
Okay.
And the police inspector is a fellow named Monroe. And he sort of rescues a gal named West, Charlie West, because she got dumped by her fiance, and she's a policeman, and he sort of rescues her, and because he knows she can be really great, and she ends up following him back to Scotland.
Okay.
And they're not involved as a couple, but more like daughter and father. And so each book has the same team in it.
Okay.
And then Monroe retires. Okay. But he still works as a volunteer, and so he's sort of always nudging the team, which is younger. And there's always really interesting crimes, and they're all interesting titles too. They're all like one-word titles.
Okay.
And they're things like rancor.
Okay.
And hubris, and penury.
Yeah, Penury.
But they're all really, really good. And I want to say there's 10 in the series. And they always get their man, woman, and/or child, but it's usually a convoluted way they have to go through it, and so on and so forth. And there's Scotland, so you do have to watch the language because they refer to things differently than like we do in English or American and stuff. So, but I would say if you love to read and you're interested in sort of free books, Kindle Unlimited is something to consider.
Well, yeah, and another thing that I've always liked is that I think it's if you have Prime, they do.
Yes.
You get 1 out of 5 books a month early before they come out, I think it is. And I've had some good luck with those. I don't remember the author's name, but I was reading one called An Affair to Dismember.
There you go.
It was a cozy mystery, obviously. But that one I didn't finish, but it was this girl moves home to live with her grandma because she doesn't really know what she wants to do. And her grandma's decided she should take over her matchmaking business.
Oh, I think I read this.
And after she moves in, family across the street, the dad dies. And they say that he fell and hit his head on the table, but there was no blood on the table, and the table was clean. So she's thinking he might have been murdered. And so it follows on that piece. And I unfortunately didn't finish it because I had other books from the library I had to get to, and it's still just kind of hanging out on my Kindle. But I've decided if I could have a perfect job, it would be naming cozy mysteries because they have such fun names.
Well, they
like
do
that,
actually.
Or like don't hex with the X or something is some of them, or based on the different
genre
or
if
character.
If it's paranormal.
And like Joanne Flukes has all the
Cinnamon Roll Murder and the Blueberry
Christmas chocolate chip cookie mystery murder and all of those that are fun. And I really enjoy reading that series. It's just that when you read the Hannah Swenson's books, you want cookies and cake, and it doesn't.
Well, in these Scottish books too, she is forever eating, and she's got some massive metabolism, so it doesn't matter. She's always eating things like sausage rolls.
I know, that's the worst. And sometimes when you read these, you have to make sure your cupboard is well stocked up or you're going to have to start baking.
That's true. That's really true. And there's a series of tea mysteries that take place in Charleston, and those are the same thing because they have recipes in them, and they cook food. They serve lunch at this tea room, and then all these different teas. And oh my goodness, you want to just pull up a chair and say, "Serve me now."
You do. Well, on that note, we're going to finish up for this time. We'll see you here next time. If you have books that follow any of the genres we've talked about, if they make you hungry or whatever, happy. Reach out to us. Let us know on our email, offtheshelfbooktalk@gmail.com, or Facebook, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks.